As lead designer on Adirondack Studios side, I do a lot of the blue sky charrette work, and charrette means it's a French word for brainstorm. So clients will come in and they'll have a new idea for, say, a haunted house or a dark ride, and I'll sit with them and within their parameters kind of dream up what that could be. Adirondack Studios is one of the best companies to work with because they also build the scenery, so they can take it from that blue sky concept phase and then bring it all the way into scenery and install. Hersheypark, I will say, has been a dream client for Adirondack Studios. They're incredible, and they brought out some of the best in the industry. Epic Entertainment came out, a bunch more. They're fantastic, and they had 4 new areas designed, plus some scare zones. So I set dressed with this amazing set dresser, Karita, and I came out there and got to dress a Haunted Coal Mine with her, and Descent, Twisted Darkness, and then their kind of larger scare zone, which is similar to Terror Tram, called Creature Chaos. The stories were created and they were kind of given to us as creative concept decks at Adirondack, and then we did what we do best, get the scenery installed as soon as possible. But we did it, we sourced props, we got them bought, and it was everything from shopping online, Karita did a lot of that, to us going around to local Goodwills and just finding old mining equipment. And it's Hershey, Pennsylvania, so you go to a thrift store there, they have some amazing old buckets and toolboxes and stuff, and it really turned out great. Dressing a maze, it sounds easy, but it's really challenging because you have to screw something down or glue it down so well that if someone that comes in that's a little tipsy wants to try to rip it off, they're not going to, And you also have to be aware that these characters really get into character, so they might rip a can off of a shelf just to get the scare, which is a good scare actor, but it also, needs some repair later. So you have to find ways to attach a really delicate antique Band-Aid can to this metal shelf without having anything sharp poking out, hurting the guests, without having the screw showing, but also being aware of lighting and trying to get the guests to look in one direction while the scare happens out of their peripheral vision. So there's a lot of technique to it of you want to create a distraction so that the scare can happen properly. Hersheypark, they had really set designs, but they were flexible. They let us kind of be adaptable. Walls would move around and change, things had to go in very quickly, and so they gave us that space to be creative, but also follow the story that was set up. It was great to see 4 original mazes that really had thought out story there. Hershey did a great job with that, and we got to support it with the set dressing. They did a great job of spreading them around, so they have some scare zones, and as you know at Hersheypark, you kind of start up high and walk down low. So there's 2 down low, which we call downstairs, and that's the Haunted Coal Mine and Creature Chaos. And then the 2 upstairs are in this big air-conditioned tent, and they're called Twisted Darkness, and that's Descent. So those 2 are back to back. But, and then in between they have scare zones and scare actors that will jump out at you in bushes. I categorize props in 3 categories. So you have animated props, which is like an animatronic you'd buy, typically connected to an air compressor or something. You have body props, which are static. They're not gonna move, so that might be a good distraction. A really great scare that's used a lot is you walk into a room with a dozen or so mannequins and then 1 or 2 people are real. That's a classic. And then you have dressing, which is setting the environment. And then there's also kind of a whole other technique of dressing with fabric. So we call it fear flaps, but they're flaps that prevent you from seeing what's coming in the next room. A lot of times industrial freezer flaps are used, or burlap. It's so detailed with how nice these things end up looking. I was in the mazes and I knew where all the scares were, and in every single maze, they got me. Descent, they scared the crap out of me, and I knew exactly where the scares were coming from. And Descent is one of these beautiful, it's almost Victorian in its setting, and it follows the story of this woman that kind of goes insane with grief and steals this veriscope that lets her kind of see the dead. And so you're walking through these foggy, London-esque sewers and these Wraiths are coming out, which is kind of like a ghost creature. You're going through like an old boiler room, there's bugs. So it's a really neat setting that's original. We were so busy, we had one night where we could go through all the mazes, and I only got to ride the Great Bear, but it was incredible. Such a good coaster. That park is a coaster person's dream. I mean, it's fantastic. The design of a haunt is so intricate, and if you get scared, be happy that you did, because it means everyone was kind of doing their job. I had such a great time. I want to go back. I hope they do it next year. I have an idea for a maze that I think will fit perfectly, but I can't say what it is yet.